why OKRs, William? So it looks like amazing company. So what you wanted to achieve, and what were the challenges you tried to overcome?
So I think the company grew quite fast over the last 3 to 5 years, and going from 30 where you know everyone and everybody can discuss what they're doing and keep that alignment by just talking to each other at the coffee machine. It grew quite quickly into like now being like 80. And we kind of felt that we needed a way to communicate more effectively what the studio wanted to do, at the same time making sure that everybody is aligned on the different initiatives that we wanted to have and create that sense of strong focus, dealing with one objective at a time and not trying to achieve everything at the same time. So that was the intention behind it, the first one. Secondly, we kind of discovered through the course of the life of the studio that a lot of opportunities were coming, and we always wanted to react to what was happening, and we found ourselves a lot in a reacting mode instead of trying to really decide ahead of time what was the kind of long-term objective. So we always had a mission and a vision and kind of an overall strategy, but forcing ourselves to put that down on a longer term for the 3 to 5 years and then yearly really helped create that long and midterm goals, so that everybody at the studio kind of understands what the studio is trying to achieve. So that was an important part, and also the other thing was to try and find something that was aligned with our values and the culture of the studio. So we are a video game in the studio, so obviously, as you can see, a lot of young people, passionate people. There's a lot of strong personalities, a lot of creativity. So there are like really strong values at the studio where we want to keep the empowerment, the responsibility, accountability, transparency, and all of those values that we had originally without OKRs. And when we kind of tried to define what we wanted to do, we realized that OKRs had all of that, and that's why we decided to go with it. So before we had so the disjointed initiative is exactly what I was discussing before. Trying to react. We are a studio where most of our work is work for hire, which means we make games for other clients, and part of the studio is also doing original IPs, making games for ourselves that we sell straight to our customers, and trying to find a balance and decide on the objectives we wanted to achieve without having really thought through and laid them down. Ended up always reacting to, oh, this opportunity of this person or this group who wants to make that game. And we were reacting to that, and without having a baseline where we could compare against, is that really in the objective we want to have this year, or are we really achieving this long-term goal? And that really helped filter all the kind of noise around what we wanted to achieve. And so in the same way, when we grew, we had a lot of meetings. So we are like probably everybody here, we have our like SMT, so senior management team meeting. And a lot of the time we were discussing, reacting to lots of things, and a lot of managers had meetings and a lot of leads had meetings. And having the OKRs now streamlined a lot of the topics and the discussions and recentered everybody to really discussing what is necessary. So that's what we had before, and now we are, well, so the challenges, challenges we had, so flip-flopping, I talked about it, a lot of noise, trying to keep focus on what's important. That was a big challenge that we had before. Now it's very transparent for everybody. Everybody can access everything. Everybody in the studio is presented with the objectives from top management to all the different teams. So there's a lot less flip-flopping in terms of, oh, should we do that or should we not do that? Is it part of what we need to do this quarter or this year? Yes, let's do it. If it's not, that means it's not the focus we should have. The reaction, so just give me one sec because I have this thing. So yeah, how to keep focused. I think it's the same. Reaction versus planning. That's what I was saying earlier. Forcing ourselves to take time, and sometimes there are a long period of time where you think, should I really spend a day or even 2 days with the entire senior management team and the managers of each department, thinking about what are the objectives for the year, what are the objectives for the quarter. It feels at times that it's just a waste of time when you know you have piles of things to do. But actually, it really helped setting that kind of mindset where we're trying to plan and really make sure that we understand what's important for the company, and it filters a lot of the reaction that we have later on things that are just before where making us move in a certain direction. Now they don't do that anymore, because we know that if they are not part of what we've identified as being important, we should just leave it aside. It doesn't mean we don't allow ourselves to change, but when the OKRs are changed, it's for a very good reason, not just for a simple event. We also have a very diverse team in the studio. So yeah, video games touches a lot of different things. You have artists, you have game designers, you have tech people, you have marketing people, you have publishing teams, you have all of the kind of supporting teams, so HR, IT, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different teams, and everybody has kind of his range of expertise and his ideas, and trying to make everybody understand what's the end goal is hard, because when you work in finance, it's really hard to see how your work relates to making the end product of the game we're making. And I think the OKRs really help, because you can see that what you're actually doing contributes to the bigger goal, and the end goal is actually to make that awesome strategy about making games in the market we want to reach. So it's really good, because everybody in the team can actually relate to the bigger goals. And we also had a lot of departments that were siloed, so verticals, HR, and then art, and OKRs really helped in the structuring, the one we chose, and we'll talk about it later, to break those silos and make groups of people who have the same interests and objectives and are sharing the actions that manages to accomplish an objective, instead of actually just working within different departments.
Yep.
I'm thinking too much already.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you, Will. And I think it's great that we start with why question. Yes, because from our experience, quite often companies do not really realize why they're implementing OKRs. And afterwards, it's difficult to measure success of implementation, whether they're actually achieving what they wanted to achieve with new goal setting approach, and if they overcome challenges. So so it's really exciting to see what is coming next, how you try to overcome these challenges. I also know from my experience that quite often companies, not companies, but also people, they are interested on, okay, but how to start this OKR implementation, yeah? So maybe you can talk a bit how your journey started, yeah, how it continued, and then what was important in adoption phase after you started.
Yeah. So yeah, it started actually not very long ago. It was around 2 years ago. I was not the one initiating that. I actually didn't know about OKRs at the time. And it was our marketing director who worked in a much bigger studio before that, who had this OKR implementation. And so he kind of explained to us what were the values and what it could bring. And it actually slowly kind of convinced some of the senior management team. It took a while for everybody to get on board, but slowly, around the beginning of 2022, people started to get interested, started to see, okay, that could have a value for us. And that's when I onboarded as well. And the journey kind of continued. So during the 2022, we implemented like the first few quarters. It was only like the senior management team who had that. Obviously, our senior management team, most of them are head of all the departments within the studio. So we only did it at that level to start with, and try to get accustomed with the system and the values and what we wanted to actually deploy. And I basically took the full responsibility for really trying to push and deploy a fully implemented system in 2023. So end of 2022, beginning of last year. It's now the 5th iteration, so it's the second. We are setting the 3rd yearly cycle, and I am doing the 5th iteration, quarterly cycle. So we slowly expanded. At the beginning, we only had the management team with only us really looking after OKRs and trying to do the check-in and reviews and assessing progress. And slowly we added all the different department managers. So on the production side, the art manager, the game tech manager, QA manager, and then we added the same on all the supporting functions. And so we were probably around like 10 to 15 on the second stage. So we did a quarter or two like this. Then we went to the next stage, which started probably 3 quarters ago. Yeah, 3 quarters ago, where we added a lot more people. So we now have OKRs for the departments, but also for each game. So each project has their own OKR with the producer and the leadership team of project taking responsibilities for setting, checking in, reviewing, assessing, and doing all the different phases of the cycle. And we also have separate teams, which in some cases can be considered as chapters that we open and close. This quarter, for example, we just opened an AI OKR team where we wanted to make sure we could focus a group of people on these initiatives of embarking into AI. So it was a slow expansion. We are not doing individual OKRs. It's not the goal, or at least for now, we don't want to do it. Maybe one day we will go to that, but that's not the intention. In terms of the adoption, we never forced anything. It was I've been pushing quite hard in terms of talking about it. I just talked and tried to show the value to everyone. But on company meetings or even like team meetings or anything, it was always very clear and obvious that it was not an obligation. Only people who wanted to volunteer as being part of setting the OKRs, crafting them, or only hearing about them. We never forced anyone. Lots of training. So first personal training, and not only me, but the management team and the heads of departments. So reading podcasts, webinars, talking to other studios. So a lot of trying to understand what was our journey through the OKRs. It can't be the same for everyone. Several trainings for the team. So started running different sessions for the different level of the team and projects and managers. And so after a year, we asked the people at the studio, how do you find it? Do you think it's aligned with the values that we have at Old School Games? Do you think it's achieving things? And we were really surprised because I was not expecting that, but we had around like 85% of positive results. There are still some people who don't like processes and don't like to be put in the box, even if I don't think OKRs are doing this. But so we had some people not fully happy, but it was a minority and we were really happy. So that's why we decided to carry on. We did a lot of reinforcement during the cycles. So really making sure that there's a start to the cycle, everybody's warned, everybody's shown the objective of the studio, the different teams. We have end of cycle with the grade and reflect. We do the same at the beginning of each year to present the yearly OKR. So we try to really reinforce the cycle for everybody to understand that we stay agile. It's not something that sets forever, but there is a rhythm. So we're trying to get everybody into the rhythm. And I think the part of the adoption that was the most efficient is that throughout the first phases, when we showed as part of the management team or the managers that our OKRs we were actually managing to achieve some stuff with it. It was actually quite powerful because people could see, oh, actually, oh, this initiative that I've heard about it for years, I'm pushing it a bit far, but it is a bit, some of them were like this, where you're in the front of your company, like, yeah, we're going to do this. And then never happens. And now there are some things that were like, no, look, this has happened. And actually through the OKRs, we managed to create the bandwidth to do that. So it was very convincing to see that it was working. And the more people are getting to use them, the more people can see that they can achieve some of the initiatives that they had that for a long time they couldn't actually fit within their schedule.
Yeah, thank you, Will. So the journey is like for 2 years already. Yeah. And can you say that you're already in destination point, or you are still continue the journey?
No, we are so far from the end. I'm not sure there's an end. I think it's like, just to put that in parallel, we Agile is I've been doing Agile for 15 years, and we have actually decided to have a coach in All Scale Games, and he's been following us for probably 2 years or something like that. And it's the same. We always have discussions, the two of us, and it's an endless journey. I think.
Yeah, and it's a good input for others who are looking to OKRs, don't have a expectation or perception that it can be a quick rollout. Yes, this is an endless journey where you need to learn continuously. I like what you shared about that it was pilot granular approach, not like everybody from the beginning, but granularly. Very interested about voluntary approach. Probably the first time I hear like, oh, who would like to join? Usually it's, okay, pilot for this department and all in this department, yes. So very interested about voluntary. You are really a role model I see OKR adoption in your company. We just started in September our meetup groups, and you have not missed any of our meetups, making a lot of, so asking questions, making a lot of notes. Yeah. So I think
I
it's
know
awesome.
I know I don't know a lot, so I'm
Yeah.
still trying to understand it.
So yeah, and you know, so you have different teams, and also many things changing because we are living just in this world. So we need the software, yes. And of course, I know what software you are using, the Oboard tool, but I'm curious how you choose this tool, what kind of research you made, and what you had before, and what you see some challenges with the tool, or you see some benefits. Yeah.
So yeah, I can talk about that a bit. So the first year we were using Excel or Google Sheet. It was quite simple. I mean, it did the job. You have your objectives. If you know a little bit of formulas on Excel, you can easily create some grading system. So it was a very good starting point for us, because we didn't even know if that was the system we wanted to do, but quite quickly it became limiting. There are a lot of mistakes. You just have to copy paste one line. All of a sudden, the grading doesn't work anymore. It's not easy to share. It's not easy to have rights. It's not easy to communicate information. So when I, at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, I started looking into the different options and solutions on the market. There are a lot. And there are a lot of, from very simple plugins on Google Drive that I've found, to very complex all-in OKR system with business reviews, automatically created AI-assisted system. So there's a whole panel. For us, we wanted to define like what were the criteria that we would think would be the right system for us. And the first one was transparency. So we wanted something that had no filters, that everybody can see my OKRs, everybody can see the CEO OKR, everybody can see his mate's OKR. We wanted something easy to access. So obviously for us, it's an advantage because Oboard lives in Jira, and as being focused on production, probably 80% of our staff is on production of video games. Everybody has a Jira account, so it was an easy onboarding for them. We wanted something easy to use for everyone, where with a very small learning curve. I have used some of the other OKR systems, and this one does the minimum you need to actually create for us at this stage in our journey what we wanted. Levels, different intervals, different teams, start dates, end dates, grading, attaching objective to OKRs, having different levels. All of this was easy and not too calculated. Cascading results, that was something. So we recognize that obviously OKRs have values at every different levels or teams. For the teams, obviously, it's really good because they have an objective for 3 months. They can see how they're progressing. But for us, on the senior management team, the idea was to be able throughout the cascading objectives, not all of them are cascaded, but the ones that are, that we could every week very quickly see where the pinch points were, and if we needed to go and help those people because there were difficulties in achieving objectives in one specific area. So this cascading requires work to make sure that everybody understands and takes the time to update it. But when it's done properly and it's not complicated to do, it's very powerful for us because we know where we can act and help. The flexible structure, I talked about it, and the last time was the price tag, obviously, as well. It's something that we are, like I said, an independent studio. So we didn't want something that was ballooning into a very expensive solution. And that was also another criteria that made us choose Oboard. There you go. Easy adoption, yeah, challenging, grading. So there are few challenges. It's not all I have to say as well. The few challenges that we have found are around like measuring, sometimes the grading. If you need to measure something that is negative, that is something that is not present at the moment. Sometimes you can have objective that goes over 100. So there's always we always found ways to slightly turn around the problem and use it effectively, but there are some situations where you have to be a little bit creative and it's not as straightforward. The other thing is the Slack integration is something that for us is really would be really useful because again the whole studio works with that. And crafting, but that I think is the nature of every tool compared to Excel. Excel is one line, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and you can do that very quickly. Obviously, as soon as you have a web interface, it's a bit slower. Click, choose, list. So, but that I think is the same for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Will. Thank you for the overview, what you had before and what the type of analysis you did, your criteria, like you mentioned, transparency and other things. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Oboard will work on the feedback and make it, yeah, hopefully integration with Slack soon as well.
Yeah. So
I think the next topic, what would be interested for participants, is to understand what type of, we call it ground rules, OKR ground rules, has been taken in the company in order to bring a playing field for employees, so they understand, okay, this is a new change, this is a new goal setting framework, how to use it, what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, what are the expectations. And before I will give word to you, I will just remind, especially the ones who were on our meetups before, or maybe who are part of OKR Accelerator. By the way, we have OKR Accelerator, so Ola, if you can put a link into the chat, it's free of charge. So there is such acronym that we invented, TO Facts. These are 8 common reasons for implementing OKRs, like quite often companies would like to implement OKRs for one of these 8 reasons, or for some of them, yes, or maybe or even all of them, like transparency, empowerment, agility, focus, alignment, commitment, tracking, stretching. And even if this is a reason for implementing OKRs, it's also then the reason to think what the ground rules, what the decisions you need to take in order to secure the transparency, in order to secure empowerment, in order to secure focus, etc. And I would like, Will, that you guide us through your decisions, what type of decisions you made. And I think it would be very valuable for participants to see what type of decisions you can take.
Yeah, but we can. So again, this is something we've done in the last 6 months. We kind of realized that setting OKRs for everybody needed kind of a, like you said, ground rules, a kind of common ground of the kind of rules we need to follow when we set them, and they are quite heteroclite. It's not about like formulation, but it's more like how do you think about them. So transparency, like I said, objective results are shared with the entire studio. That was the premise for everything. So obviously everybody needs to understand that. Maintain of information related to OKR in our centralized database, so the Oboard tool. So everything is centralized there. It can be documents related to completing an objective or activities, or we're really trying to, that's one of the features that I really like about Oboard. You have the activity feed, and you can really talk to your team and tell them, okay, this has been done, and they can really see the activity, and it works really well for transparency. Empowerment, so ensure that the resources, so budget, time, talent are allocated appropriately to OKR. If not, challenge it. That's really important because it's the change management. This is not the bread and butter of what we do. What we do is produce video games. We have Agile for that. People are really busy making games. They need to understand that everything done through the OKRs are things that we want to reach and things we want to change and be better. And so it's really pushed towards everybody that they really need to understand the bandwidth they have and the resources they have to do that. And if they can't, challenge it. Balance, studio align. So that's the kind of top-down versus bottom-up approach. We, on purpose, create first our studio objectives, and within every single crafting meeting for every team, we are trying to push them to try and see how they can really contribute to achieving the studio OKRs. But we also favor them to try and come up with objectives that they believe are strong and ambitious for either their departments or the projects or specific team that are not directly aligned, but create some empowerment in the decision making, so they really feel that they're not doing OKRs for us, they are doing OKR for the studio, but also for their development and their team. Agility, so that's the kind of continuous improvement, the same philosophy that we have in retrospective in Agile. We are running sprints for all our projects. At the end, there's a retrospective that helps bubble up all the kind of issues that you can have. They can be management issues, they can be process issues, they can be production budget, whatever, but it helps the team taking control and stay agile and iterate over the complexity of the environment they work in. The same, we apply the same for the OKRs, and at the end of each cycle, there is a process in place to gather all the feedback and a session to try and take some of them to iterate and be better at the next cycle. The focus, so that's very simple rules, but no more than 4 objectives per OKR team per cycle, no more than 5 key results. I have to say, sometimes we don't respect this one. It happens, but we try to stick to it as much as we can.
As there is a saying, you have a rules, how to say, exceptions of the rules proves that you need a rule. Yes, so exactly. There are always some exceptions.
Exactly. Alignment. So so that was I was touching on that a bit earlier about the siloed teams. We really push people to make sure the objective they choose are directly relevant to the team within this OKR team. Before we had to, for example, the production department had objective for the delivery of one project. But actually, the only person in that group that was relevant was the producer, and all the actual people who were really useful to accomplish that goal were the project team. And now we really try to make everybody understand that you need to think about, do you have the people around you to achieve that goal? And if you don't, then it probably doesn't live inside that team. The cross OKR collaboration, cross OKR team collaboration. So there are a lot of moments for the different teams to share what they're doing and create synergies and making sure the alignment is respected. I think we'll touch a bit later on that because it's a really hard part. Commitments, yeah. So level of commitment between every single objective and KR actually in the studio, teams have to decide and understand what it means to be committed and aspirational. It really helps us as well on the studio level. We usually have 2 to 3 objectives, sometimes 4, and they are never all committed. There's probably 1 or maximum 2 that we want to emphasize as this is the real commitment this quarter. And the other ones are aspirational, and we really reinforced the 2 aspects for the team, so they really understand it now for their own OKRs and creates a commitment. So that's quite good.
And you use labels, yes, to explicitly.
Yeah, we have labels. The Oboard. You have a label that you can use, and we use the label for that exactly. Yeah, so people understand whether it's committed or aspirational. Tracking. So I mean, this is the measure what matters. There's nothing really to explain in here. We have all the grading, and you can really see. No problem with this. The only thing I would say is we have a rule that there can't be the check-in and reviews. So the meetings in the middle can't be spaced by more than 2 weeks, because originally in the first iteration we had sometimes 1 month. And it takes so much time between one review to another that your brain goes somewhere else. And when you come back, you kind of forgot the thing that you were doing. And it takes so much more time. At the studio level, we do it every week, 20 minutes. And it's actually, we never go past the 20 minutes because it's just in a rhythm. And I make sure before going into the meeting that things are prepared, that I only touch on the things that are important. And then we just keep that flow. And it's much, we have found that it was much more efficient than adding them more spaced out. And the last one, stretching, inspiring, challenging, yet achievable. Again, we're trying to push that towards the team, a lot more towards what they want to push for their departments. When we have like committed goals, we're trying to stay more realistic, let's say. Yep. Thank you, Will. I hope participants will find some of the decisions that might provoke your thinking. Oh, should we have this type of decisions? But this is usually a great start to explicitly mention these ground rules, because then it helps employees to understand, okay, how to operate with goal setting. You mentioned it. One thing, there was, I mean, we selected here some of the more like interesting ones, but there's one as well, which is more on the cultural part, but that we found was interesting is that people always think like, when they don't get to 100% or they kind of fail, and we really had to push hard on the fail fast, learn, and it's not a problem. You have the right to fail, don't worry. And at the beginning, it was hard because people were not actually putting like challenging objectives, and they were like, oh, but we didn't succeed. And so we had to hammer this message about it is not the problem. If it's committed, it's committed, but otherwise it doesn't matter. You have the right to fail. You have the right to fail. I just say that because I can't see it in here. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's about psychological safety as well. Yeah, which is very important for high-performing teams. Yeah, Victor, you have a question?
In case you finished with the ground rules, but really interesting to know how you will handle the situation with the fight between strategic initiatives and operational stuff. So if you meet, like, if you, for example, committed for 4 OKRs for this quarter, but then you see that a lot of operational come and a lot of operational stuff came in this quarter. So how you defined the balance between operational stuff and strategic initiatives? Do you have some ground rules on this topic or not?
We don't have a ground rule, but that's one of the message as well that we needed to reinforce, is that OKR kind of became the Bible over the last like a year, and it's like everybody's OKR. So we had to really like go back to everybody and say, listen, OKR is change. We are not going to say in here that tomorrow we need to deliver the milestone of this game, or we need to, that's just change. Like the KPIs that we need to follow in order to make sure the core business runs is not going to be tracked, is not going to be setting objectives. So you really need to, as a team of OKR, understand what is the kind of bandwidth you believe that you're going to have to focus on change management, as opposed to actually really work on what we would say operational stuff.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Does it answer the question?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less.
I can add one more piece here, that like the new teams regularly, they have no experience in planning OKRs. So they potentially, because they feel that they should be ambitious here, they would like to set really ambitious goals, which will be allocate their 100% of their time. But in real life, you cannot allocate 100% of your time on OKRs. So you need to be careful and like to create ground rule. Maybe you can spend 70% of your time on OKRs, and you should understand it when you are planning your next cycle. And 30% you should allocate on the operational stuff. And if you have this ground rule, for team will be much more easier to plan everything and to understand where is the balance between these two things.
I think you had something about this one, yes? If not, challenge it. Ensure that resources are allocated. Yeah.
That's exactly that. And for us, because teams are different, we have like teams on projects. Like the projects team are, like I would say even worse. They're like probably 80 or 85% like production. So there's only a small bandwidth to actually dedicate time to OKRs. As if you take a department, like if I take production department, for example, my department that I run at the studio as well, we have a lot more time on our hands to dedicate to the change. So it's not even balanced between the different teams. So that's why we have this, as you really need to understand what is your bandwidth and your resources to dedicate time to OKR. Otherwise, just don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Victor. I propose we move on. We will also have time at the end for Q&As. But yeah, for all the rest, also, if you have a question, don't wait for the end of the webinar. So thank you for sharing Will ground rules. You also mentioned that you are quite a big company and you have multiple different teams, diverse teams. Can you describe how you organize teams around to work on OKRs? It's also quite interesting topics quite often.
Yes, so there's around 20 teams of OKRs in the studio. We tried, like I said earlier, to create smaller teams, but really focused on what people could act on. So they are, like, you can see the name of the team on the left. There's the level. So we'll see after the kind of alignment model that we chose, but there's only 2 levels. There's the studio and everybody else is on a team level. And there are like 3 types of groups. There's the team. So a team is made of cross-discipline or cross-departments. It has a goal. So like you can see, we have a happy team at the studio who is in charge of making sure everybody's happy. So they are made of a programmer and a manager and a producer, and there you go. And there are projects, which are like really video game projects that we made, and there's departments. So those are the 3 groups in here. We have also for each group a dedicated, identified and transparent, shown to everybody lead. And this lead as the kind of is in charge of making sure the OKR cycle and the different phases are well run. He's not the chief, he's not the one who needs to achieve everything. He's just the one who makes sure that the reviews, the meetings have happened, and the progress on the Oboard is reported properly, and is going to ping some people sometimes if things are not moving forward. But it's not a dictator doing and telling people what to do. Is more someone who is coaching the team to make sure that there's momentum.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So, interesting what you said about levels. Yes, that you have only 2 levels, and I think you will talk about it a bit more when we go to alignment model. So you have 20 OKR teams. So I wonder how you keep them aligned towards your overarching goals, yes, towards your strategic goals. So yeah, how this is done.
This is so basically this slide, so a lot of the slides you see in here have been presented to the studio. So this is kind of what we call vision to quarter, in terms of how we go down from vision mission to the quarterly intervals. It speaks by itself. Vision mission, we have an overall strategy for the studio. We have what we call the strategic OKRs, which are in between 2 to 5 years long. We have 4 of them. And then each year, at the beginning of the year, we do the retrospective of what happened the year before. And we really take the beginning of the year to set what the objectives for the year should be. And then those are only for the studio level. So that's only the senior management team. And then quarter after quarter, we first set objectives at the studio level within the senior management team, and then all the teams are actually attaching their OKRs or not to the studio objectives every quarter. So that's basically how we kind of try and keep the alignment from the top goal to the bottom. So this is this is starting to be like very micro, smaller Excel spreadsheets. So that's basically the cycle for a year of how we implement the OKR at the studio. So what we call VG, it's because it's an old school game, so it's pirates. The VG in French is the big mast in the middle with the guy and what do you call that? The long view. I don't remember the name of that. And so that's the point in the year where we have a big meeting. We do the company meeting, doing the reflection of what happened and setting the course of the year. And after that, you can see that every cycle has the kind of 4 big phases. So the crafting phase, the commit and share, making sure everybody create transparency, create commitment, and then the check-in and reviews during the most of the cycle, and at the end the grade and reflect. And so they kind of sequence each other so that it does studio, team, and then team back to studio at the end.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not going to go in details in there, but those are the breakdown of the different quarters, because obviously some of them are slightly different, but there's nothing, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
What we try and do, the only thing I would say is that we have had cycles where it took a long time to do the grade and reflect and the crafting period, and you end up having 40% or half of your cycle where there are no OKRs, and it's actually really frustrating because people want to actually move forward, but there's nothing in place. So and the opposite, I think it's good to have a breather. It's good. So we are trying to do around 25% of the time when there's no OKR and 75% when there is. And doing that 25%, it allows everybody to really think about what the next set is, and also do more of their work on the side. It creates like a break, and then we start again. But yeah, we try to do the crafting phase within around 2 weeks, and the grading and reflecting phase at the end during 1 week.
Yeah. So personally, I looked at many companies, how they describe how they do the cycle, etc. And this is probably one of the best ways, because it's so transparent and gives such a great clarity what to expect when, on a studio level, on a team level, what is going after what. So it's a really nice visualization of the cycle. But as I'm let's say I'm an employee in old school games, how I understand, okay, oh, it's coming, I'm in team, and it's coming C or CS. What I need to do? How can I understand and yeah, what is coming?
Yeah. So wait 1 sec, I'm just reopening this because there are some notes in here I want. Yeah, so though this is a big Excel spreadsheet. So the first thing is that we really the OKR leads. If you want the different roles at the studio, there's me with for now the person kind of in charge of deploying it, but we are creating the guild. So that's an initiative of this quarter. So there's a guild being created. There are 4 of us now. Where we are trying to really promote, coach the teams, and trying to do that. So the people, I say that because people don't go and see a C and say, oh, what is this C? And then there's the OKR team leads. So there's a special Slack channel, and we have special meetings and trainings. And so between 20 teams, there's probably 15 of them now. So everybody starts to really know what's in there. And to answer your question, Mitro, about what each phase corresponds to, we created that. I first initiated it, and then everybody contributed to try and have something that is robust, which defines what we expect for each of those different phases. So the 4 common phases of OKRs. What are the important steps within each of them, and what type of questions you need to ask yourself when you go into these phases. Most of them are meetings. The committee, actually every single one of them has at least 1 meeting in it. So the question you need to ask yourself for the meeting, there's a lot, it's not here, but there's also another part, which is like prepare for the meeting. This is stupid to say, but also really important. OKRs they are brain consuming. They are really like, if you want to do it well, it's tiring. And so getting everybody into a meeting and not being prepared on which OKR, what key results are not going well, which one, then you start losing everybody's attention if you start going down the list. That's one of the learnings we had at the beginning. We were like, okay, let's go to the OKR, let's go and then you lose the attention, you're not focusing on the right things that need to be addressed in the meeting. So preparing for every single one of these meetings is really important. And that's something that we're trying to focus a lot at the moment on.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, of course, we will not go through the entire spreadsheet, but I think it's valuable for everyone if you are looking at how to describe each of the phases. And yeah, you have already a great example that you can I hope, yes, will be okay to take and adapt to your needs in the company. Yes,
that's one of our values. We like sharing.
Yes, thank you, Will. And you mentioned it about like a flat alignment model. Yeah, or how you manage to keep 20 OKR teams aligned. So maybe talk us a bit more about your alignment model.
Yeah, by the way, all the documents that are here, I mean, there's my email at the beginning. Do not hesitate to come and ask questions, or even give me ideas or contradict some of this. I'm part of all of you in here trying to move forward and be better. So do not hesitate to give me ideas as well. Okay, so yeah, the model, but that was kind of a realization more than a choice that I actually discovered during one of the webinars with you, Mitro and Ola. We originally had the classic alignment model because we had the departments, and slowly, naturally, we were like, actually, it doesn't work. It's very heavy on the process. It means every single team needs to have a gap in between, and then it's very segmented. And then naturally, we kind of moved to the flat alignment model on the right, where there's the studio setting the objective for the quarter, and every single team is on the same level. So it creates that. So that's what you shared, Mitra. But when I read it, I was like, this is exactly why we chose it. But this is exactly what I find hard. It's true. It was very true. So flexibility, it's really good. The truth is, it's really organic. Every single quarter in the last 3 quarters, we have either open or closed chapter because it's easy to create. There's not a lot of processes, so it's really flexible. The autonomy of the team is really good. Now, like I said, we probably have like 15 OKR team leads who are starting to really know what they're doing, and they're starting to be autonomous. At the moment, I'm still with them, but slowly, they are starting to really run the OKRs on their own. And the overhead is very low. So those are good things. And the problem with it is the alignment is hard, because you have obviously 20 teams in parallel who are setting OKRs. And if you don't find a way to have a common denominator in each of these meetings, then suddenly someone's going to say, oh, I've got art department's going to say, oh, this quarter, I want an objective about defining the missions of the leads. And then there's going to be the tech department who's going to say, oh, this quarter, I'm going to say that I would really like to define the missions of leads. And then if you don't have something in the middle to say, well, wait, there's 2 initiatives that are very similar. Why don't we take it and move it upwards and try to actually make it homogeneous throughout the production departments that we want to know what leads are? So that's one of the problems. It can be duplicates. It can be things that are literally going against each other, or some are not at the right place. Some actually tends to modify, and it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, tend to modify what you put at the studio level, because you suddenly realize that, oh, wow, we forgot something, or something is not exactly what we wanted to do. So right now, it's me. I'm doing every single 20 meetings, and it is not sustainable. And hence why we created the guild, and we have put an OKR for the OKR team, which is to basically make sure that at the end of this quarter, the alignment is respected, but is distributed. And at least for this quarter, I only do half the team. And then slowly, I will distribute until I don't become anymore a bottleneck. It's really tiring, but it's not that. It's also a bottleneck if I'm sick, it's not a good thing to be like this. So hard, but I think it's worth the challenge for us, at least. I think if you are 3,000, no.
Yeah,
at our level, it works pretty well.
Yeah, thank you, Will, for sharing alignment models. Yes, and you can read more about them. Ola shared the article. This is our Oboard/Uphill Partners invention of these 3 models. I think we will come up with the 4th soon. This is what we see quite often in the companies, and come up with these models. Great. So it looks like Will, a lot of information. I don't know, like ground rules, alignment models, structure, quarterly cycle, etc. How I am as employee of Old School Games can remember all of this or find it. So what you have for this?
Yeah, but we created an OKR playbook. So Mitchell just put the table of content as there's kind of a part about the theory and introduction of what is a change management methodology, why OKRs, the alignment models, all the concepts that we touched about in here. And then there's a much more like implementation side of how at Old School Games we use OKR, what are the structures, what are the teams, how do we run cycles and ground rules and everything. And that's a document that I'm using to train the different OKR team leads, and that is also shared with the entire studio as a reference when someone has questions. I'm also part of the onboarding when someone comes into the studio.
Yeah, cool. And actually a lot of slides during today's presentation were just taken from this playbook. So we can reuse it even for the webinars outside of Old School Games. Nice. Yeah, so Will, thank you. It was a great overview of the journey and also specific details of the implementation. I wonder, when you reflect and retrospect on this journey, what you see the benefits and challenges and still challenges. Yeah. And yeah, and we actually have a lot of them, so we will not have time to go through them. But what we will do, I will do a poll for you guys, and you will vote for which benefits and challenges you would like to hear more, and we will deep dive into them. Yeah. So let's do a democratic way. Let me launch a new poll. So you will be asked, yeah, kind of what challenges and benefits would you like to hear more? And then we will take one at a time. I think we will take one in benefits, one in challenges, and then we will move on to closure and Q&As. So please vote. So far we have 2 participated, 3, 7. 10, 11. Let's get at least half of us. 16, 17. Okay, now let's get 20. 20. And I will close in 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. End poll and share results. Okay, so Will, what our participants would like to hear in terms of benefit is minimize silo work. Can you elaborate a bit more on this one? Yeah.
I think the silo work, so the fact that you are working within your department and a lot less within cross-functional teams, we achieve that with, so there are the 3 types of groups, so the projects, the departments and teams. And this one is really, the purpose is to, if I give an example, we have one which is the knowledge base. So 2 or 3 quarters ago, we really saw that we needed to have a centralized knowledge base for the studio, where all information would live about projects, about departments, about HR, about if you had question on IT and everything. And so someone had the initiative of doing this, and we decided to open a team, so a chapter, where people from different departments saw the value of that and just created that group of OKR within the team. And now they are like, I'm part of it as well. And we are like 7, I think, or 8 from very different teams. But we all saw that there was something really important for the studio. And so we created that chapter called Knowledge Base, and we are still running it. And I think once it's going to be in place and running, and we're going to go more towards the operation than the change management, we will close the chapter and everybody will go. So that's what it allowed us to do, to create these cross-functional teams with an objective and a really important mission, and then minimize the silo work.
And on challenges, thank you, Will. And on challenges, we have 2 winners with the same score. So I will ask about 2 challenges to elaborate more. The first one, craft valuable and relevant OKRs.
Yeah, can you please give me the answer? It is still a challenge, I think, for everyone. I mean, it's good. You have there's a lot of documentation and literature and common sense, but it is still hard for everybody to really craft intelligent yet ambitious yet achievable yet. It's hard. So to be honest, I'm probably less good than you on that. So I'm waiting for you to give me some answers on this one. It's hard. We're trying we are progressing. That's definitely for sure. Quarter after quarter, but it's hard.
Yeah, it takes time. Yes.
Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, exactly. Organization and follow-up of the cycle. Yeah, so that is the making sure that cycle. It's basically because we have like deployed the system within the last like 18 months throughout the rest of the company, I still, and the team leads and everybody still has to do a lot of follow-up during the cycle. I think it is disappearing slowly because more and more people are getting on board, more and more people are getting used to checking and reviewing their OKRs like regularly, but you still have to, I still personally have to spend quite a lot of time in Oboard and checking, and it's like, oh, this is at risk, sending a little message. And for that, Oboard is really well made because you can tag someone and send a message and you will automatically receive it in an email. So I spend probably 1 to 2 hours a week making sure that I go back to Oboard, and if they see something at risk, asking a person, is this really at risk, or did you just forget to update your percentage or move the date? So that's basically what
okay, cool. And I'm glad that you are building the guild, so it's not only on your shoulders to look after 20 teams, which is very difficult. So yeah, it's great that you are delegating to more OKR champions. So yeah, thank you for sharing the benefits and challenges. So what are the next steps with OKR journey?
Yeah, so like I said, big next step, important is the guild. Ready to focus on the good thing is I didn't have to ask personally to anyone. I just sent a message throughout the OKR team leads, and 3 people volunteered. It's good because it's not the same type, I would say, of people. One person is a QA tester, another person is a game tech manager, and another person is a producer. I'm trying to push to get someone from the kind of more support team to come, someone from HR or someone here. Can you hear me? But yeah, so that was really good. I'm trying to really push that and make some more advocates of the OKRs. And despite that, we can, I mean, the advantage, obviously, not me being a bottleneck is good, but the other advantage is obviously intelligence of the group. Like, we will be so much better thinking all together and having like discussions about how we can move forward, and lots of different ideas and initiative. We need that. So yeah, so that's the first thing, really important. The second one is to still carry on. We are really not there in terms of running the cycle smoothly. We're still like sometimes at the beginning, some people don't craft their OKR properly, or it takes like a week or 2 more, or some meetings for the check-ins are not well implemented everywhere. So we have some work to do. And again, because we have this philosophy where we don't want to force anyone, it takes a little more time. We don't want to change that, but at the same time, we really need to care for it, making sure that it doesn't fall apart, because we've worked hard to get to where we are. And so there's definitely optimization of the cycle. Training, carry on the training, personal, and also for the guild, the OKR teams, but also reinforcing the messages, showing the value of the OKRs, showing the results that we get, and slowly onboard more and more people. Continuous improvement, fail, learn, iterate, succeed. I mean, this is just bread and butter of any system. And yeah, that's the next steps. We don't have any intention, like I said before, to move down to individual OKR. I personally see, for now, I don't personally see the value, because we want it to be really optional. And if you see the value and you like it, just come and pick your OKR and do something that you really fancy doing and for the studio. But I feel that if we go down to individual, it's gonna have to be like for everybody, and I'm not sure it will go down well, at least now. So maybe.
Yeah. Thank you, Will. Yeah, and usually our recommendation is not to go into individual level. Yeah. So great story, Will. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for preparation. Thank you for finding time to prepare and be with us and share the story. So now we will have time for Q&As from participants. Before that, I would like to have a return on investment poll from you guys. So the last poll for today. So please be honest and answer. Yes, how would you rate the return on investment from attending today's event? Yeah, and then you have 5 options.
I'm not going to answer.
And yeah, we have 50% now of response. So please share your opinion.
Yeah, and do not hesitate. Like I said, I'm also on the journey, and if there are things that were not clear or confusing, please ask questions or tell me that I'm doing things not in the right way. That would help me too.
Yeah. So I think, okay, while we are finishing the poll, so Bo has a question in the chat. Do you have any concrete examples of good OKRs you have used? How did you use it? How did it make a difference in the company to have this as an OKR? A question from an OKR novice.
Okay. Yeah, let me give me 1 sec. I'm just going to open Oboard in 1 second and find one. Yeah, I've got one that is actually quite good. So we had this the studio, like I said, is a lot of work for hire. So we do a lot of work for clients, and our gains. One of our objective for the studio is to be a game as a service studio, which means like a game like SaaS for software, which make games, and games like stay. We create communities and they stay for years afterwards. And but we want to stay small, and our kind of strategy was to create what we called an external development team, and take some of the game that goes into live operation through that team to find external partner and create the development and the maintenance and the live operation of that game using other partners. And basically we started and we opened the chapter, we created the team, external development, and we created OKRs. And for example, one of the OKR was to identify, there were one which was have identified the partner before, and it was before the end of December last year. And the OKR, which was like have identified 20 potential partners, have selected 6 or 7, I don't remember, by using the test, have signed, identified one and signed one before the end date. And actually the structure was sometimes OKRs can be a bit sequential, sometimes they are not, sometimes they're parallel. This one was a little bit sequential with really a good measurement, and it really helped the whole team, cross-discipline team, to get to that goal, which was quite ambitious within 3 months to manage to do that with all the operations around. But we actually managed to do it, and then we recreated this cycle, a new OKR, which was like make sure the delivery of the first 2 milestone with this new partner is achieved, and then we had like KRs about time spent and everything, and that also worked really well. So I don't know if I answered to the question properly, but maybe
thanks. I know what's no OKR, so it helps to have some concrete examples of how you used it, but I'm not still quite sure how is it different from old school setting goals and whatever that I mean, what's special about the OKRs, or is it just a new 3-letter acronym for what we have done in different shapes before? It's still not quite clear to me. But maybe it is quite the same, and we keep improving and that's fine.
And I am inviting you both for our next workshop, which will be 20th of March, where we will in more details look at the OKRs, how they're different from our other goal setting approaches. Yeah.
I think from my perspective, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just said sounds good. I'll look forward to the next session. So yeah, thanks.
Sorry. From my perspective, the thing that changed is that the objective suddenly is not an objective until all of the measuring points that you have defined for it are completed. And I think that's for me what the biggest difference is not I have an objective, is the objective is just the result of having a sum of very measurable elements. And if these things are measurable, then the objective is complete. And it's turning a little bit upside down, for me at least, because I really ask, and that's one of the question that I always ask the guys is, are you sure that by completing all these key results, your objective is reached? And that's the thing for me that has changed a little bit the way I was seeing the objective. I'm not sure again if that's the right answer, but for me at least it's helped a lot.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's another it's a great question, but how it's different. We actually have one webinar workshop where we had approached the difference between OKR, KPI, North Star, and SMART goals. Ola, did we have it in recording?
Yeah, I'll share it in the chat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so if you would like, Bo, you can watch where we approached for different, what is the difference between them? Yeah, cool. Yeah, there is one more question from Fabio. Fabio, would you like to voice it out?
Yeah, sure. And thank you everyone for this webinar. It's been quite insightful in places, especially seeing the cadence that you have. The question really is around how much buy-in did you need from others in leadership to be able to, one, try and implement them, and how much of their involvement was needed when you were trying to establish that OKR process and cadence that would work for you? Because I'm really struggling at the moment to get that buy-in, and I'm not sure which leaders I would need to, and how much involvement they would need to at least start the process off.
Yeah, no, I attending to different webinars and listening to a lot of podcasts and reading. I can really see that the adoption from the top management is an issue that is often raised. I have to say, maybe I'm lucky, but we have a very strong bond between the four partners, and I think it was based on trust. Like some of us at the beginning were like, okay, it can work, and I just took the bull by the horn and say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna push it. You have to just go along with me, and if it doesn't work, I'll be grown up enough to say, you know what, it's not working, let's step back. But you're gonna have to accompany me and trust me if we want to try and see if it works, because if we don't go all together, it's gonna be hard. And it kind of went like that, and they all did it. So I know that's not the right answer, because I'm sure it's not like that in other companies, but I'm not sure I'm able to help. Reading, one thing that I did, I can tell you one pragmatic thing that I did, is that I bought 15 versions of Measure What Matters, and I put it on in front of every single desk of all the managers, producers, and people at C-level and in the management team, and say, please, if you want to help me, maybe I took them a little bit by the sentiment in there, but I was like, if you want to help me, I've got a mission, please read the book. And I think the book, I'm not sure it describes the OKR perfectly. You find a lot better terminologies and values and everything on other pieces. But at least it's exciting. You read it, you can see that really prestigious people, the companies have used it. You can see the values behind. There's a part of it, the CFR, the conversation, feedback, and recognition. Really interesting for all the kind of culture. And so I really try to say, please read it, please. And everybody who read it kind of enjoyed it, and it's softened the adoption. Small trick. I'm not sure it's going to do it.
Yeah, another great book is Radical Focus by Christina Wutke. Even more exciting to read about OKRs. Yeah.
Okay. And
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
I'm not sure it helped you a lot, Fabio. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it helped me more than you may think, because I have a particular leader in mind that I want to approach this with, and what you mentioned there, this will help me coach them. This will help me give some good advice with regards to trust and also grabbing the bull by the horns. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Fabio, for your question. So I think we can have one more question. So any questions, you can just raise your voice or put it into the chat. No? Okay, but then thank you all. I will share results of the poll so you see on return investment. So majority are positive. So yeah, really great job of sharing a great story, and it looks like participants really like it. So thank you all for your time, for joining us in late evening. Mostly we are from Europe, so it's evening for all of us. And stay tuned. As I said, on March 20, we'll have next interactive workshop, not webinar, where we will more practice OKRs, and it will be done by a great OKR coach from Netherlands, Bas. So yeah, stay tuned to our meetup group. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Will.